A story from my junior from college. Junior noticed it when he went to the beach 2 weeks in a row as a student in a swimming club. In the second week, his skin was peeling due to sunburn from the previous week's exposure to the sun, and when he was resting after getting tired from swimming and his body was drying off, he suddenly noticed his skin began to peel. So he tried pulling it off gently around his left wrist. He thought he got a good peel, about 2 inches in radius, so he had a stupid idea of peeling bigger skin surfaces. It was kind of like a game to him. He held down the peeled, thin dead skin with a pebble to stop it from being blown away by the wind and started to pull off his skin again. When he peeled it off around his elbow, it was the largest one yet. So when he tried to compare it with the first peel skin he had placed on the ground, his eyes widened in surprise. He said that a sea urchin had been munching on the first peel. For some reason, witnessing a natural creature devouring what had been his skin until just a moment ago thrilled him. Junior thought, I see. Not only bears and crocodiles, but even such small creatures sees humans as food. He recalled in an accident in Brazil or some other country where an infant was bitten to death by cockroaches. However, he said that the reason he was shocked was not because he was scared of being eaten by other creatures, but because he felt an indescribable masochistic pleasure. So, this feeling became what he would call it. He said that while he calmly thought it was strange that he had felt pleasure from his own body being eaten, he was extremely excited to have found out this fact. He's a nut job, right? Yeah, I don't understand it either. For a few days after returning from training at the beach, he peeled off as much of the skin as he could and diligently saved it in a Tupperware container. He also saved his fallen hair and nail clippings, and apparently even saved dead skin particles, like eraser shavings, that came out when you rub your palms when it's moist. He also said he made them from the soles of his feet and heels. When he had accumulated a fair amount of what used to be his body, he decided to have them eat it. The rental house Junior lived in was an old wooden one, and inhabited not only by cockroaches, but also centipedes, paramecium, and cockroaches. There were also mice, and sometimes snakes appeared preying on them. Apparently, the rent was cheap, but he lived in a place like that. If it was me, you'd have to pay me to live in a cave like that, but I digress. He thought they would surely eat his peeled-off body, so he spread a newspaper in the corner of the kitchen floor and separated out his skin, dirt, hair, and nails and placed them there. He even borrowed an 8mm video with a night vision function from a friend and recorded it to see what kind of creatures would show up. Until the second day, there was no change in the meal placed on the newspaper, so he didn't check the recording. But on the morning of the third day, his skin had been reduced to about 2/3. He skipped his university club that day, hurried home, and checked the recording without eating. Apparently, it was a centipede that had been eating the skin. It had been munching away for about 20 minutes when a mouse came and ran away. Then, to his surprise, the mouse started eating the dead skin particles. Junior said that when he saw it in the morning, he had been distracted by the skin and hadn't noticed. Mice eat stuff like this too? Junior wondered, and after looking into it, he found that this was possible. The hair and nails were not touched at all, so after about 10 days, he threw them away. He had ran out of sunburnt skin, so he continued making dead skin particles and saved it up for others to eat. And then it happened, the following summer. Junior was out in the mountains when he was bitten by a viper and had to have his right leg amputated below the knee. When he was told about the necessary operation, while lying in this hospital bed, he said that his mind went blank and he couldn't speak. He had to give up his hobby and training, so this is understandable. Poor guy. After the surgery, Junya was dejectedly saying goodbye to his leg, but the hospital told him to request the crematorium to cremate the body part himself. The hospital would issue an amputation certificate, and he would then be asked to submit the request to the crematorium. He thought the hospital would just treat it as some kind of waste. Junya suddenly had an idea and thanked the Viper. Yeah, you guessed it right. He wanted to have something eat his right leg. He knew it was nothing like thin skin or particles, and just thinking about it made him shiver with anticipation and excitement. Listening to him, I was more than grossed out. I'm not sure if I should go into too much detail from here on, so I'll keep it brief, but it seems he got what he wanted. It would be impossible to do this in a public place like a zoo, so they relied on an individual who knew people, and waited until the owner and the staff were gone. The lucky one who was chosen to eat the leg was that hairless dude that eats quickly and doesn't leave any bones behind. Witnessing the Viper swallowing his leg, the sensation and pleasure was so exhilarating he thought he could collapse at the spot. He's a total psychopath. I nearly collapsed myself just listening to him. Since he lived alone, he managed to hide the fact that he had disposed of his leg this way from his parents. I feel sorry for Junya, who lost his right leg, but since then we have gone our separate ways. He's a good guy, but somewhere in my heart I loathe the idea that this abnormal side of him exists. Every time I see him, I feel like something is missing from his body, and it scares me. However, I am worried that Junya's name might appear in the news one day about him being attacked by a bear somewhere. It might not have been an accident, but it is something he would want from the bottom of his heart. Won't he notice that he'll never have the privilege of feeling the thrill if he died in the first place, I wonder?